Thank you very much for the introduction. As a matter of fact, I'm particularly pleased to have the opportunity to talk about this very exciting and unfortunately topical issue of data safety and security. I want to shed a light on the security in the tourism sector from my point of view. You can see the title of my presentation. This reminds you of the Eagle song Hotel California. You can check out anytime you like, but your data can never leave. Before I'm going to talk about the content of my presentation, I would like to briefly introduce myself. You heard my name is Uwe Bernd-Striebeck. I'm a partner at KPMG in Germany, and I'm head of security consulting in Germany. We deal with a lot of questions regarding information safety. And as has already been said, this is about the technical security. That is, we carry out penetration tests, as it is called in professional terms. That is, we try to enter company networks just like a hacker does, but we also look into organizational safety. This is called information security management system. And this comprises the question, what does a manager need to do so that the firewall works everywhere to the very bottom of the company. Moreover, we examine topics such as fighting against spying, and in Germany this is very important as well. Data security is an important issue. Moreover, we are an accredited body for the global security standard ISO 27001, and we also look into access management, etc. What do you need to do as a company? What kind of processes do you need in organizational terms? So that you're well positioned. And this is a technological and a process-related topic. Business continuity management is important as well. How do you safeguard your critical infrastructure? This is something that is not really being discussed in Germany, but it is very topical for the sector. Critical infrastructure. Just imagine you do not have your booking logics any longer, and you do not have any IT support any longer. Will these services be provided in hotels? Can you check in and out in a hotel? Just imagine this would happen with an airline. What would happen if the IT failed in an airline? These are the questions that we need to discuss, and this is part and parcel of our everyday routine. Now, I would like to start by looking back on the year 2006. That's only 8 years ago. Mr. Engel Wolf was the minister in North Rhine-Westphalia, and he said the biggest security weakness is not technology, but people. And confidential information should never be left unattended in a hotel room, unquote. In the next minutes, I would like to explain how topical this statement is. Maybe a piece of information for you. To me, professionally speaking, it's a great fun. And whenever I am in a hotel, and I spend a lot of time in hotels, I'll make a sign on my cupboard in the hotel so as to realize whether it had been opened. And without exaggerating, I can tell you that in 80% of cases, when I come back to the hotel room, I have to realize that someone had opened the hotel cupboard in my room. Well, what happened? What has happened since 2006? You see the big building. This represents the NSA. I think I do not need to explain to anybody what the important issues are. Anybody who read a newspaper only once during the past 2 years has heard about Mr. Snowden and his revelations. This is the GCHQ. This is the respective organization in the UK. You can see the logo on the slide. But there are also other neighboring states, be it our friends in France or in Spain or anywhere else. And the Federal Republic of Germany is not excluded from this. We do have similar services, and you need to bear this in mind. The picture to the bottom right represents the anonymous hacker groups. The hacktivists, you remember WikiLeaks and the confidential military information that was revealed. This is data where we used to think it is impossible, incredible that this will be leaked to the public at large. And another very important issue, and there's going to be a court hearing in Bavaria next week. These are the so-called tax CDs. That is, CDs containing tax information. And to the bottom left, you see the novel called Blackout. This novel clearly showed us what would happen if a critical infrastructure failed. You should read it. I can recommend it to you. Although you need to say that reality has caught up with us and has gone further than the novel. I also work with energy providers, and we realize that every single day there is an attack towards a critical infrastructure. For example, points of trams or sewage plants with several switches, etc. These devices have digital control panels that are being attacked by hackers every day. But let us talk about the perspective of our sector. I was wondering how to structure my keynote speech. I would like to show you a typical everyday day. That is one of my days of Mr. Bernd-Striebeck. Usually I go to the office in the morning, then I leave the office. At a certain moment in time, I've got my iPhone with me when I go to the airport. Then I take the plane. Yesterday I went to Berlin, for example. I take a taxi or probably also a hire car. Then I go to the hotel. I, of course, use the Wi-Fi so as to connect to the internet. And in the evening, I go to the bar of the hotel, for instance. I do not drink tea in the evening. It looks better like this. I usually have a pint in the evening, and I would like to shed light on what can happen in reality. And I wish to underscore once again the following. I know a lot of people think, well, these things happen, but these things happen in James Bond films only. No, this is not the case. This is everyday reality. So in the morning, when I leave my office, I've got my iPhone switched on, and whether I like it or not, my iPhone communicates my local position. But the second question is who receives this data? And this is the crucial point. My mobile phone provider knows where I am, but third parties as well. And this is where it gets interesting. Who are these third parties? I do not know. And this is the question that raises, because I do not know how my mobile phone provider deals with this data. And I'm amongst those people who say, well, anybody can see my data. All those who have a Facebook account say, well, I don't do anything that is illegal or bad. Everybody can have a look at my data on the Facebook site, no problem whatsoever. But just think about your movement data and what would happen if they were sold on a CD because a colleague at work wants to harass you. And maybe someone did a detour and went to see his grandmother or her grandmother and did it during the official working hours. And these are things that are not interesting or important during the normal business. I said I go to the airport. Let's suppose I go to the US. And there are a lot of agreements regarding the transfer of passenger data. I went to the NSA security conference last week, and I had to have my passenger data recorded. There's an agreement called passenger name record, and when I book, on this very day, my data is transferred to the S, and not only to the S, there are other countries who require this as well. 3 to 4 years ago, the following case happened. An employee of our company went to the US together with me, and his name sounded Arabic. He is German, actually. He comes from Eastern Germany, but his name sounded Arabic to the Americans. And my immigration procedure at the border took 10 minutes, and his took 55 minutes. He was covered in sweat because they checked him, they checked everything. He had to show all his documents and all his files at the border, and he hadn't done anything wrong. He simply had a name that seemed to be an Arabic name. And this is the dangerous thing. If you interpret data completely without context, he did not know that the Americans didn't know that this person had lived in Germany for 3 generations already. And this is the dangerous thing, that external third persons interpret data without the context. But similar things happen in the UK, the Royal Concierge project. This is an automated system as well. Hotel bookings of diplomats are transferred to the GCHQ, and this is something that has existed for 3 years, and this happens on the day of booking. 350 high-class hotels are being supervised according to this project, and this is important, technical attacks are provided for highly interesting people. What does that mean? If this is couched in a wording in an official program, what does it mean? What are specific attacks? Well, first of all, there are banal things such as eavesdropping, hotel room telephone. This is what you might even expect today. But computers are being monitored as well via hotel networks, and this happens to you if you use the Wi-Fi of the hotel. And even worse, there are technical special things thanks to the tech team. I couldn't find out what that means exactly. This is a very recent information. The German magazine Der Spiegel revealed this at the end of last year, and they found out that there are other special technical features that are being used, and human spies are being used. But this is something I expected. Moreover, the hotel selection might be influenced by this program. That is, you might receive a rebooking from this program, because maybe if the eavesdropping infrastructure of a hotel is not so good, you might be redirected to another hotel, and there are plans to expand this to car hire companies in the UK. Now let's just take a look at the technical special features. Examinations have been carried out, and these are things that also happen all around the world, and this happens in Russia. This is a Russian example. This is a picture taken from a Russian device. In other words, there are devices in hotel rooms, such as in an iron or in a coffee pot, in which you find chips which pretend to provide a Wi-Fi to the guest in the hotel room, and then they install a spy software onto the device of the guest. And this brings us back to James Bond. I know, you're thinking, will it really happen? Is it true? And I can tell you, yes, it happens thousands of times every single day. Another very topical and recent issue, Sochi. We all watched the beautiful games in Sochi. There's an American company called Tribe Micro, and they carry out security studies on a regular basis. They carried out an analysis during the past week prior to the Olympic Games, that is, when the infrastructure had already been finalized in Russia. And these examinations, according to these examinations, it was said that almost all electronic devices are compromised. In Russian cafes, there are Wi-Fi services sometimes, and these services were infected with spy software so that people could be tracked. Data was retrieved and transferred to Russian servers. The same thing happened with laptops in hotel rooms. And the recommendations sound helpless. Trend Micro recommended to the guests to not take their devices or only use clean electronic devices to Russia, and all personal information should be deleted. They should not log on Wi-Fi networks, and they should change the passwords prior and after the trip to Sochi. These were the recommendations. I don't know what you think about it, but to me, this seems that these recommendations are not really very helpful or specific. And here again, I wish to point this out again. We're not talking about James Bond, but we're talking about things that happen every single day. Now, something very recent. In February 2014, something was leaked regarding the American hotel chain White Lodging. The credit card terminals in the hotel receptions were compromised by something. And according to what we know today, 14 hotels were affected. This software was running for up to 9 months, and this malware read the unencrypted data of the credit cards. In other words, credit card data was stolen, and according to what we know today, thousands of hotel guests were affected by this. I don't know how you perceive this today, But according to a classical perception, a hotel is not a safety room. But I do know that a lot of renowned companies carry out their board meetings in all types of hotels. And believe you me, if these things get well known, then these meetings won't take place in the hotels any longer. And I think this will have a significant consequence for the businesses in hotels. I do know DAX-listed companies who hold their meetings not in hotels, but they prefer to go to small B&Bs or guest houses in the Allgäu region in Germany, where they don't have a fantastic infrastructure, but where they can't get hacked. So from this point of view, we clearly need to say that this is a very clear business driver. I would like to make a remark, which is a personal note. In summertime, I very often go to a Spanish island in a very good hotel, and just like many hotels, this hotel also offers a free Wi-Fi. That is, if you're sitting on the terrace and you've got a cup of coffee, you can ask for the Wi-Fi key. I'm an Apple fan. I've got an Apple computer with me usually, and this Apple computer has a very nice feature. All the computers that are found in a network are automatically included, and in this hotel, I always see several computers in the network when I sit on the terrace for 3 years, and they're called Officina. There are other Officina computers. You do not need to hack. You do not need to do any illegal things at all. I simply do a double click onto this icon, and all of a sudden I can see that on these computers I can find work certificates, for instance. I have access to their booking data. I find various documents there, and these are things that are dangerous to me. And I say this as a person who spends a lot of time in hotels. I think it is high time that the tourism sector accepts this threat and also reacts to this. From my point of view, it is absolutely indispensable that the tourism sector takes action. Customer data and their own confidential data need to be secured by organizational and technical measures as well. I can tell you, from the point of view of KPMG, and we work in a team of approximately 100 people. We look into IT safety. We have a lot of orders by all various companies of the industry, but the tourism sector is hardly represented at all. Only a very few and far in between. I don't know. Maybe they go to other service providers, but in my perception, I can say that the tourism sector is not aware of this problem at all. Quite on the contrary. Now, I stand here in front of you because I am supposed to tell you what I do and what I have to do. I believe that in the security and safety market, we can see a paradigm shift. During the past 10 years, we have relied on having a safe infrastructure that we've built around us. That is, we set up firewalls. And so far, we've tried to build kind of a castle or a fort. We've got safe firewalls. Perimeter security is the professional term for this, and we suppose that this is going to protect us against attackers from the outside. As someone who since 1999 has carried out several thousand security audits, I can tell you we carried out thousands of penetration tests, and there were approximately maybe up to 10 where our people did not manage to enter. In other words, absolute security thanks to perimeters or other safety measures, this is something that does not correspond to true reality. I think we absolutely need to accept that this is not the case. I went to this conference in San Francisco last week, and the answer to what do I need to do was the following one. Well, you need to do your homework, something that you needed to do during the past 10 years. You also need to bank on and continue banking on perimeter safety. You need data leakage prevention, firewalls, etc. There's a whole range of products that you can buy. It goes without saying that you need to continue with this. But there's something on top of that, and this is the paradigm shift that is ahead of us from the point of view of IT security. Apart from this, you need to take additional measures, because there might be a hacker in your inside a network, and you need to recognize this hacker. We had a case with the local mobile phone providers in Germany. This is a company that exists around the world, and we could read it in the headlines of the press. In August 2013, one realized that they in the company they had attackers which were in-house, and this person had been active in the network since February. So more than 5 weeks, this person had been active without anybody realizing. And since this attacker had so much time, he himself kind of built standard jobs, and he retrieved customer data bit by bit. Every second day, every other day, he retrieved customer data, and the quantities were very small, so nobody realized, but the damage was huge. So you can see that this is very, very topical. Last week, we discussed this in San Francisco, and there was the security trade show in Amsterdam last year. This was a top issue back then even. And there are solutions all coming from the American market. This is a software which is linked to the data stream and kind of reads the data packages going through our network. There are ready-made solutions to this from the US, and they are highly sophisticated. And I believe, especially on the European market, we realize that people start to rethink, do we really want to have these systems in our German or European networks? Because the question is not whether someone is eavesdropping and listening in. The question is rather, when is this backdoor being used? When does this attacker switch in? The same holds true for phoning. The question is not whether or if at all someone is listening in. The question is when does it happen? So I've told you quite a few things now. Now, I suppose you rightfully would ask the question to me, this sounds very good, but what am I to do? I suppose that you can't read this slide from the very back of the room. You're not supposed to read everything. This is the security target operating model of KPMG. It contains everything that is linked to security and safety, such as awareness training. Do my employees know that security is decisive for us? And this also includes technical features, safe processes. That means the task ahead of us is really huge. I thought I would like to make 4 recommendations to you today. And please take some time next week and think about whether you had such an action in your company at all. First of all, do you know what your crown jewels are from a data perspective? What is critical data? What data must not be lost in any case? So first of all, the crown jewels in terms of data. What is critical data? What is critical infrastructure? If you know what this is, you've made a great headway. Second question, once you know what the crown jewels are, where do you find them? Where are they? On what IT devices? Do they end up in a printer? Is the printer placed and positioned in a safe area? Do you have a safe process around the printer? Where can you find this data? And once you know where the data is, you need to determine what kind of protective measures you've got for these things. And then the next step is are these measures sufficient from today's point of view? And then you know what to do. This is what I do in my everyday business, and I'd be very pleased if made some recommendations, if I gave you some food for thought, if you need help, I'm fully available. But apart from KPMG's services, there are other service providers, and this moves me on to the end of my presentation. This was what I wanted to tell you. I hope I've given you some food for thought, because this is the task of a keynote speaker, and I'm fully available for your questions now. Thank you.